I graduated from Syracuse Engineering School with a degree in BS in engineering. While I was there, though, I took a great deal of music courses, and in fact, I took probably an extra 15 credits a semester. And while I was there, I also believed in going out and trying to help the country, and I went out for RTC, and I was marching around there, and pretty quickly became what they call a guide and bearer. But I found out that there was a band, so I thoroughly enjoyed the time that I was there in RTC. That was right at the time that the war started over in Vietnam, and I really wanted to go into the advanced corps and go on. My father-in-law at the time really talked me out of it, and he said, you know, you can do a great deal of good for this country as an engineer, and you really should consider that. And so I continued my studies in engineering and graduated with a BS in engineering. From there, I thought about what am I going to do next, and I wanted to go on for a graduate degree in engineering. But again, my father-in-law suggested that I really seriously consider going to law school. He had been involved himself. He was an admiral in the Navy at the time, but he was in the reserve, and he was working for American Cyanamid, and he interfaced with patent attorneys. And I'd never even heard of a patent attorney. I didn't know much about patent law. I hadn't thought about it. My whole world had been numbers and notes. Talking with him, I just took a suggestion, and I applied to some law schools and pretty quickly was accepted to Boston University. I needed to, have a job for the summer, so I drove out to a place in Waltham, Massachusetts. I just walked in the door and I said, I'm an engineer, can I help you in any way? And they said, absolutely, and they put me to work immediately. While I was there, another gentleman who had been affiliated with the head of the entire plant happened to mention to his dad that I was in law school, and they immediately said, well, you really should think about, there's an opening at Polaroid Corporation for somebody to clerk over there, and maybe you could learn a little something about patent law while you're at it. They really gave me a special kind of a track through there as a law clerk, and I became exposed and involved with many different aspects of the patent practice, reviewing all the agreements that they had with different people, and working on the various patent applications and amendments that were filed. I stayed there until I actually graduated, but shortly before graduation, I was advised that my mother had a terminal illness, and I wanted I loved it in Boston. It was great, and being up there near Tech Square was where a lot of things were happening. But I also knew that New Jersey was #1 in inventions per capita at that time, and would also be a good place. And I wanted her to have some contact with the children, before she passed away. And my family were so instrumental in helping me to get onto the right track with education and everything, and sacrificed a great deal to help us do that. My father was an architect, my grandfather was an engineer, my mother was a librarian, but she had a master's degree in library science. I played a lot of tennis in my life, starting from when I was very young, and then coming back to this area, I was a member of a club that I played, and I captained the teams at that club. I also found out that there was a real opportunity for tennis at Allied Signal, and then, when I was there. So we got to the point where, playing all that tennis, I began to meet other people, and one of the fellows that I met was, at that time, a relatively younger fellow, but he was a very good tennis player, and he was also working for a private firm. And he started trying to get me to think about coming over and working for a private firm. I'd spent a lot of time writing, prosecuting, helping to enforce patents by interfacing with the top-notch firms in this country. And it meant a lot to me as an attorney to, at some point in my career, get on the other side and be able to stand up in court and talk to the judges and be able to press our cases for the clients that way. I hemmed and hawed about this for a long time, but I finally decided, I've been there for 30 years, and I just think maybe it's time for me to consider, another aspect of the legal profession where I'd be able to write up and make my own arguments and not have someone else make arguments based on documents that I'd prepared. The billing practices in big firms are such that if you don't have large clients who can afford to pay the bill, it's awfully hard to be able to work for those clients. So I wanted to be at a place where I was in charge of the billing. I mean, there's some clients that can easily afford to pay, and I don't have any problems asking a fair price for what we do. But other clients, if they're, and so what I've done, and in fact, it's turned out to be, I think, a philosophy that works well, because if you can do well for a client, a lot of times the client will do well, and then they don't have any problem. So anyway, that's one of the reasons I sort of thought about running my own show and being able to do that. So my wife actually tried to encourage me to do that, and she looked around and she found this building that I'm in right now, which was just a shell that had been built, and it was for sale, and it wasn't too far from where I live, and moved over here about 12, 15 years ago and been here ever since, and I never looked back. If I were asked to advise someone to be a patent attorney, what I would say would be that you need to be inquisitive by nature, and to want to be inquisitive by nature, and then to arm yourself with the building blocks that will help you to understand the areas in which you're going to inquire. And one of those would be to get a good solid technical background, and to, along the way, at least focus to some degree on reading from good writers, so that you understand how to organize your thoughts and put them forth in a written document. Then I would say that it would also be useful along the way to practice a dialogue which you can go through that would help you to develop a facility for relaying to others and disclosing to others those thoughts that you have that would be germane to the analysis and solution of problems in that particular field. I think, first of all, obviously I would be leaving a legacy for those people in the family that who have, on the one hand, helped me to come to be where I am, and for those that weren't around at that time, but who have now come into being and perhaps can learn and profit from the experiences that I've had. I can't tell you how much it's important for me to continue to try to set an example as I can. One reason why I'm here right now. I have 2 children. My son is the pro over at Morristown Field Club. He actually has a degree in animal science. My daughter teaches at Rutgers University. She teaches the graduate students there now. My wife only recently retired. All of those people have contributed, and obviously I want to set an example. I'd like to be remembered as a person that believed strongly in helping and supporting future generations to move forward and to chart their own path in life and be able to be independent in doing so. My wife said, you really should think in terms of getting your own building, and so you can have even more say in the way in which law is practiced and in the way in which you can help people to do things. And she herself has helped people all of her life. But just in watching her and seeing that, I've felt that if I can myself embody some of those types of attitudes that she brought to the table when she was working in her careers, and help to continue that and make it part of my own career, and then encourage others to travel somewhat the same kinds of paths as we have done. I think we've done a great service for the family and helped them a lot. And of course, I stand ready to help them in other ways to accomplish that if they need it.